If you've ever heard of One Republic, Switchfoot, Kygo, Gwen Stefani,
join us to meet the man responsible for polishing the sound of all of these artists on the regular.
here we go. Welcome to Basebin TV. Welcome to Basebin TV. We have a super awesome special guest with us today. We have none other than John Nathaniel in the studio. John,
hello.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me.
You're a sport.
My gym teacher would disagree, but
And we're off to a great start.
there you go.
John is not a comedian. John is the man behind the polishing, and that's the way I kind of like to put it. I like to put it as the polishing of so many awesome artists. But not only do you polish, but you obviously you songwrite, you produce, you write. This is not only a single hat that you're wearing. You're renowned for your mixing skills, but you wear a lot of hats.
I do wear a lot of hats. But yeah, no, I do a lot of stuff. I mean, whether it's mixing, production, composing as well, I'm really, really passionate about starting sometimes just from musical ideas, not just in terms of writing songs, but sometimes orchestral pieces as well.
Mm-hmm. You dipped yourself back into studying string arrangements also,
No, I'm
right?
actually studying classical harmony.
Classical harmonies.
Yeah, classical harmony.
Right. Yeah. Classical harmony, not classical harmonies.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
But it's a misconception. Very often people think of harmonies as like vocal harmonies. No, harmonies, like harmony is chords, essentially.
Voicings.
Yeah, voicing. Essentially, yeah. That's all it is.
So what made you dive back to dig deeper? But before we go there, like your background, your dad,
So
your dad's Argentinian.
my dad's Argentinian, yeah, from Buenos Aires. My mom as well.
And your mom as well. But you don't speak Spanish, do you?
I speak a little Spanish, yeah.
Un poquito.
Solamente puedo hablar un poco de español,
Okay,
pero mis
more-
padres son de Argentina.
Okay, more than me.
Yeah. No, I speak a little bit. I understand quite a bit. I grew up around it, so yeah.
Right. So they spoke strictly Spanish at home, or?
Between them when they didn't want us to understand what was going on.
Okay.
But yeah.
Sounds familiar.
No, but definitely, yeah. But no, I understood. Occasionally they would teach me a word here and there, but they wanted me to grow up as a Canadian, blend in.
Right.
So I learned French, English at a very young age.
Right.
So
I'm
you
like-
were first generation then to
Yes,
be here?
correct. First
Okay, wow.
generation. And the only person aside from an aunt that I have here. But yeah, first generation,
Okay.
like family of immigrants. So yeah.
So did they immigrate here before you were born, after you were born? Were you in the mix?
Actually, I was made in Argentina, if you know what I mean. but yeah.
There's a stamp
essentially-
somewhere, right?
Yes. Essentially, my mother was pregnant when she came here.
Okay.
So I flew. I had my first miles in the air. I wasn't even born. Look at me, quite the traveler.
Yeah, exactly. So your parents not involved in music whatsoever. What was it? I think we both want to know.
Not involved, but I mean, my dad made me listen to a lot of classical music when I was a kid. So I grew up around classical music, which, it is proven that if you listen to that style of music, you develop, I don't want to say a better ear, but you have an ear for more complexity than just, let's say, if you only listen to pop when you're a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So was that your favorite style of music to listen on your own? Because I know my dad used to play R&B, and I used to love listening to
Also
the
great
R&B.
harmony in R&B.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I used to love listening to it, but it wasn't always the first thing that I would gravitate towards when I would just wanted to listen to music for myself. So your dad playing music, what would you listen to? Like, if you had a
when I
choice?
was 2-3 years old, it was strictly classical because I didn't have a record collection. I didn't know that
You didn't
could
have
go
a
to the
record
store.
collection
No,
at
I didn't
3
know-
years old?
No, at 3, I didn't know you could go to the store and pick anything. So it's like I had, this is what I fucking had, and boom. Growing up afterwards, I discovered, rock, punk, and I became pretty obsessed with Green Day when I was like 14, 15 years old. And this is where actually, I saw Billy Joe with that blue guitar. So it's like, I gotta have a blue guitar. So I didn't buy the exact same, but I had this like blue Fender Strat that I still have. It's one of my favorite guitars to this day.
Were there lessons or was it all by ear?
No, guitar was all by ear. But I did 2 years of classical when I was like 5 on piano.
So that's
we all
where
start there, huh?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where a lot of that your complexities more in your harmony arrangements and things like that. Obviously, there had to be some type of lessons where you learned. But you didn't study music in high school, did you?
No. I actually funny story is I was learning with a teacher when I was like 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like this Catholic school, so there were nuns actually teaching you music, and it's very strict. And they were like actually see me pretending to read because I was always a better, learning by ear than actually reading. So as I was pretending to read, they could fucking tell. And they would be very strict and be like, no, you have to read. And that really turned me off. As a kid, it became, instead of becoming fun, it became like a lot of rules just to play an instrument. And that kind of took away the magic for me. So I gave up after 2 years. Yeah, I gave up for until I picked up a guitar again at 15.
So keys, guitar. I'm told that you also play a bunch of other instruments.
Yeah, no, I play a lot of stuff. I mean, not a lot, but I mean, I play bass. Recently, the theremin. Do you know what a theremin is? So it's
we got to insert a photo here.
Okay, so it's this instrument that has 2 antennas, one for volume, one for pitch. And as you get close to it, your body is controlling the instrument. So it kind of has this.
Oh, like the UFO kind of sounding.
Correct. Yeah, but I mean, the virtuoso theremins can do these incredible nuanced performance, and it just becomes, it's almost like a weird sci-fi violin.
Right. How do you get into that?
I saw people playing it, and I've always loved the sound. I'd be like, how cool would it be if I, bought a little alien hat in my basement and played it? And then my wife came downstairs, like, what are you doing? And I'm just like,
did she walk back out?
No. I mean, she called her attorney right away. No, all jokes aside, actually, she's in on the gift. So that and my parents-in-law, and it's a very, very lovely present from them. And I love it. I discovered a new passion for theremin,
That's
believe
awesome.
it or not. And it's a niche instrument. So this is not something I'm going to be able to use in every production, but I do think I'll find a space for it.
You should find a way.
Maybe in composing for movies and stuff like that. I think it'd be like a great fit for that.
We're both big TV buffs.
Oh yeah.
We enjoy our comedy sitcoms, and you often will send me suggestions, amazing suggestions to watch things where I'm late to the freaking show. And
what we do in the shadows.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So good. So good.
So many great.
Village, everybody, including you. I mean, the guy is incredible. Yeah. The whole cast is unbelievable.
Just the way you explain to me these certain characters on TV shows, and you're so good at imitating these characters that it drew me into wanting to check out the show. I got it. When you would say a character and you would imitate something, I got it and I wanted to watch the show. Tell me how that actually transcends into you hearing things, mimicking it, and being able to replicate it. Do you think that that's in everything that you do?
No, I mean, it's basically, if I hear something, I can hear the pitch, the timing of it, the delivery. So essentially, if you're working with an artist or with, let's say you're learning a piece of music, a melodic phrase has a specific timing and intention. So you realize that if you can hear the intention, the pitch, the timing, and understand the performance, you can apply it to a lot of things, whether musical phrases or stupid imitations of TV shows. As a kid, I used to do Beavis and Butthead, Cartman.
Actually does a lot of imitations, a lot of
I'll save it for off camera.
And now that you have songs that have been on not just a feature film, a huge Top Gun Maverick feature film, does that now inspire you more to want to maybe score for a movie? This is huge. This is a huge. 1 billion streams.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, I'm not even sure because I know it has 1 billion streams on Spotify, but I think combined it's got 3 with all the platforms.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
So it's
I stand corrected.
yeah, no, it's a lot of plays for sure. I honestly, I think I was always inspired to do scoring for film. The occasion hasn't happened yet. I think I loved working on that film. It was like, and the film was so good too. So that was really, really cool. But I've always had that passion in me. Like I always wanted to do that. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm hoping sooner than later, knock on wood.
Manifest.
Yes, manifest.
Getting a gig, writing for and producing for and mixing for bands such as One Republic, amongst many others. That doesn't start from nowhere. So how was the first little seed planted for you to be able to be working with such an A-list star? I know at one point Switchfoot got involved, but it was still before Switchfoot. Ryan Tedder was very much in contact with you. So how did that start?
Well, I mean, a lot of it has to do with my manager, and it wasn't just Ryan. I mean, Bryant Kutzel from the group, who I work very, very closely with. So my manager did a lot of work to do, development, and Brent and I met through different friends. And eventually, he listened to some stuff I did. He reached out kind of out of the blue for Switchfoot. He said, "Hey man, do you remember that group Switchfoot? They're doing some new songs. I'm producing some of them." Ryan was a writer on one of the songs as well. Great song. So he's like, "Do you want to try to mix one of the songs?" I'm like, "Hell yeah. I love that group."
No kidding.
No, I mean,
I love Switchfoot.
Yeah, they're so great.
Good.
I mean, the vocals, the guitar tones,
yeah.
the intensity, it's incredible. So I got to mix voices, and they love the mix. And afterwards, I got to do the other track, which is called Native Song, which is super cool as well. So that was a lot of fun. So that's how my relationship with them started as a mixer. And that evolved to One Republic Records afterwards. That bled into that because they were producers on it.
Do you think it was like a test? Let's see what you got.
I mean, I don't think it's a test. I think it's just like basically, hey, we've got this project and they like what I did, and that just led to something else, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Because to be able to like join the One Republic camp, then that's a huge confidence builder to be able to like not just be asked to mix, but to be able to mix it and they go, "Yep."
I think it just happened organically, honestly. It's like an organic, and these things take time, basically between Switchfoot and the first One Republic mix, it was like what, 6, 7, 8 months? I don't know.
That's pretty fast. Like, but it's not fast considering where you come from.
Yeah, no,
because you've been doing it for a long time.
Things took a while before I transitioned to the U.S. projects. I mean, I started off here in Quebec, and it's hard to, especially being in Quebec and going to international markets. It's hard.
So how does that even happen? I mean, does social media play a big role in this? I know that you were on MySpace for the longest time, back in the day. How do you get gigs like this? Is it just word of mouth? You work with one person, they tell another, or are you marketing yourself?
It's always word of mouth, but I mean, it can be online word of mouth, right? So,
yeah. So MySpace was a big part of you being able to showcase your art and showcase what you were able to do. Was that a conscious decision, or was it just a normal, natural, organic decision to do social media? Because if you had a band back then or you were an artist, if you didn't have MySpace, nobody knew who you were.
I think it was the only choice. I mean, whether you're an artist or producer, if you don't have a push behind you when you start, the only way you have to promote yourself is you. So you can either go door to door, flyers, which nobody is going to give a shit about, or you can target your audience on social media.
But you were really good at marketing yourself on MySpace. As people that you worked with, you would post stuff. And I remember probably noticing you first on MySpace and going, "Who is this person? Like, who is this person behind this sound?" And I'd see different artists very often in the rock, rock pop genre, and you were just nailing it. There were only 2 people that I knew in town that were doing it like that well at that level and that were young. And that was another thing too, because this was a long time ago. I remember seeing like MySpace like 2006, 2007. I think.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I mean, I was really consistent. I think that's the secret to anything in life. I don't think you're good at something as much as you're consistent as doing it. And I think the problem with anybody who I would say doesn't make it in the business, assuming they are talented, of course, because there's a part of that. I think you need to be talented, but it's consistency.
Right.
Consistency is key. You have to work hard, but more importantly, you have to be steady at what you do because you're going to get a lot of no's.
Right.
That was the way back then. Nowadays, I mean, things are a lot crazier with algorithms. You can do publicity on Facebook. You can do a lot of stuff.
Is that something that you think about now more in your career? Because back then it was your sort of only way to reach new people. But now that you're working along, such an A-list type of clientele, is it something that you even think about, like promoting yourself?
I post the projects I do on social media and kind of let the work do the noise. That's mainly what I do. Occasionally I'll post a story, but I'm not a huge presence on social media because that would require a lot of time. And the time I like to spend it mixing records or producing records or writing songs or composing music. If I were to do this as a job, it would be a full-time job. It's like to do it well.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a lot
This
of
is
my
why,
job.
artists, I tell you, like your full-time job as an artist, as an indie artist, is not singing. It's being on social media and promoting, and not just, there's so much stuff that can go wrong when you do social media. It's all about image. Like it's a brand, really, right? As an artist, you have a brand, and I think once again, like I said earlier, consistency is key.
And that's one thing throughout your whole career, your work ethic, and I can testify to this, is that when you first started, you literally built your studio in your parents' basement and you wouldn't leave that room. You were obsessed with your work and you were obsessed with, well, first of all, were you first obsessed with gear? Because what came first? The love of the music and then the gear? Like being a real junkie about, talking about plugins and equipment and analog synths, and because you're very much a hybrid.
Yes. I have a weird relationship with gear. So I'll just say this now. My love was always the music. The gear is more like a very temporary fix for, like, we all have that, there's a new plugin or there's this new fancy compressor, thing. We get obsessed with it. Yeah, exactly. But the music phase never goes away. But the gear does. But I fucking love gear.
Sure.
Well, like I said, I think if I look at it from an objective point of view, knowing myself, it's a thing where I'll buy a new microphone, I'll be excited for a week, and then it's like part of my arsenal, and I'm cool. I love it, obviously, but I'm not like thinking about it.
You have such a vast knowledge of, different gear, of music. Was this something is it all self-taught, or did you go to schools for all of this?
I don't know. Some people would say it's self-taught. I'd like to think as I learned from people all over.
Because Kayla went to school in engineering, and I went to school in music, and throughout high school and also college for a blink of an eye. And that's another story. We'll get to that one day.
How many months was it?
It was actually almost a year.
Okay.
But I just said 3 months the other day just to be comical. Not being in that scholastic area where you're dealing with the sort of distraction of other students' social life and things like that. Do you think that played an advantage to you being really on your own, working on your own and learning your craft on your own, as opposed to being in a school environment where I used to get distracted a lot?
I think it can play both ways. I think you can get really distracted by certain people, but I think you can also really get inspired by them. If you surround yourself with assholes, you will get distracted.
True. Yeah, that's a lesson that I just learned after all those years of hanging with people that I shouldn't have been hanging with.
We all learn the hard way, don't we?
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward, now you have your own studio that you work out of, and still zero distractions. But there's a big difference from when you used to work here on a more national level. Now it's like it's more of a communication where it's a more virtual. Do you miss having somebody in the booth and actually telling them, sing this harmony, do this, do that?
No, I do both still. I don't shy away from working with people because I do love working in the same room as somebody and being able to also, like the file sharing thing can sometimes take a little longer, but I wouldn't give up on working with people because that's part of the magic, isn't it? Being able also to communicate a thought and right away the person can sing in the microphone and you have the file instead of waiting for file transfer.
So do you mostly work out of here in Quebec, or does this take you traveling kind of across the world?
I do both. I mean, I haven't traveled for a while because of the obvious pandemic, but before I used to travel all the time. But I mean, I've learned to be fully remote, but I will be traveling again soon because I love it. And
super, super strict with your workflow. And when you start something, you finish it.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in unfinished work. I mean, this is something that, some people start songs and they have like a full hard drive full of unfinished songs. So yeah, I do believe if you start a song, you finish it. Unless you go like, this is a massive fucking pièce de merde. That means piece of shit for you guys out there. So if you start something where you're like, this is not good, trash it. It's fine. But if you start something, finish it.
I have employees that have worked for me and have asked, how do I start something and finish it? And they did the exact same thing of what you were saying. They'd start something and they weren't able to finish it. And please explain in your words, because sometimes I might not have the right way to describe my process. What's your process of actually starting the song and actually not second guessing things and just finishing it? Is that what part of it? Not second guessing it?
I mean, it's psychological, really, isn't it? It's like, I think having a certain amount of trust in your ideas and be like, at the end of the day, all you have is your taste, right? It's saying, I like this, I don't like that. And as a producer, that's how you make all your decisions. So if you have to second guess an idea, it probably means you're not on board with it.
Right.
So right off the bat, if you go like, I don't know how I feel about that. If you like it, I think you would fucking know now, would you?
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. So move on rather quickly. If you like a sound, also have that same philosophy. Don't second guess it. There's no time for, oh, do I like that? If you responded to it positively, that's your first instinct.
Yeah.
Learn to trust that. The instinct is all that matters.
See, that's what I was missing in my description of how to work with that process.
Gut feeling, bro.
Is gut feeling, trust. It's a feeling that you get. And if you like it, like if you like a song, you listen to it. You don't even second guess it.
No.
Or you go
know really quickly, don't you?
Yeah. And you go next if you don't like it. Why wouldn't you treat songwriting and producing and arranging in the same way? That's a great
And you know what? The funny thing is, whenever I produce a record, I always say the first vocal sentence of the song is the most important. This is where people decide whether they are on board or whether they are skipping the record, especially in today's era where it's so easy to go next.
Do you ever keep ideas for later? Like when I look at some of the songs that I'm building, I'm like, I don't know yet how all these pieces fit together, but I kind of like what they individually bring to the song. Do you ever put something to the side and say, I'll come back to that?
Occasionally, it'll be more like a section of a song. If I think of verses and right, I'll be like, I like that chorus, but fuck that verse. And I'll just like, nowadays I'm really not afraid of rewrites. They can happen rather quickly. And very often we mess, and we learn, once again, we learned that the hard way. We are going to work, whether in production or mix, on a section way too long when we know it's not right. Same with a kick sound, same with a snare, where it'd be much shorter and much more efficient to find the source of the problem and solve that. Whether it's the songwriting, the lyrics, same thing. You hear a lyric, you go like, oh, it's all too many S's in the lyrics. Rewrite it. Subtract S's, your de-esser already hates you. You know what I mean? But the source of the problem isn't that the singer, like, it's the lyric.
And is that something that just comes with time, with confidence, like the confidence to be able to go, nope, I'm going to scrap it. We're going to move on.
You've encountered these problems multiple times. You recognize a pattern. You go like, well, this happened to me before. This is a problem. I know how to fix it. And boom. And it's problem solving. Yeah. It's recognizing patterns.
That's a really great point. I love the de-essing the words before it even enters the DAW. So you're literally mixing with the lyrics.
I think, you know, if you look at any great lyric, it sounds good. And why does it sound good? Because it works with a melody, but there's also timing to a lyric, right?
Phonetically and
phonetically. Phonetics are super important. So if you're conscious of that as you're writing and you go like, well, that lyric doesn't sound good. And the funny thing about that is every singer has a different way of performing it. So something that doesn't sound good for you might sound good with them and vice versa. You know, sometimes you see if it doesn't work with somebody you work with, recognize that really quickly. You'll know fast with experience. Fix it.
Yeah, I agree. If you'd
Fix the source.
If you'd listen to an artist come in and show you a lyric and a melody line that's sort of like in the Dave Matthews vibe, if you were just reading it without anything, you'd say there's way too many words here.
So many, yeah.
It might look repetitive on paper, but once you hear it in context, it's not. Because let's say, like a lot of songwriters will sometimes be like, oh, well, we used that word in verse 1, but here we are 1 minute later, the ear has forgotten about that word. I think it's fine, you know? So this is another conversation that I frequently have with people that I work with. Don't be afraid about how it looks on paper. Be afraid of how it sounds, sure. Because that's what matters in the end. Nobody reads, well, I mean, you read music, but you don't
read lyrics.
But even you don't listen to music by reading it.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree, because when somebody says, here are my lyrics, read them, and they don't understand when I look at them and I say, that really doesn't mean anything to me until you show me your delivery and show me your intent on how you sing it, because it might look good on paper if it's a poem, but show me what you got.
Yeah,
show me
these
what
are great starting points, though. People that write poetry. I mean, Lana Del Rey does poetry and such a fantastic artist. But yeah, you know, basically, I think a lot of people sometimes are setting themselves up for failure by putting too many boundaries on their art and being afraid of things that don't really matter.
Right.
Like the repetition of a word in verse 1 or something like that. Worry about how your melody comes across. Worry about how the emotion comes across. These are the things that really matter in the end. And even when I mix a record, my primary focus is not the EQ or the compression. I mean, part of it is, but mainly it's the emotion of the record.
So you were talking about how sometimes, you know, some lyrics or melodies might not work for some person, but it does work for another.
Yeah.
When you're writing, because you're a songwriter, are you writing for a specific artist, or do you sometimes shop your songs out?
I have shopped my songs out in the past. I've done that. I've had placements, but I mean, generally what I like doing best is writing with the artist in the room, so I can really get a vibe of who they are, and I'll write with them. So it'll be a collaboration, and I'll write for them.
So how do you put yourself into like the kind of headspace that they need? You know, sometimes they're going to need a song, might be dark, might be emotional. Do you have to kind of put yourself in there with them?
Part of it, but I'm not going to necessarily try to go through what they're going through. And sometimes it doesn't always need to be. And this is one thing I always tell. It can be personal, but it can also be a story. It can be fictional. It doesn't always need, and it can still be like real in a way where it's believable when they sing it, even if they haven't gone through it. It's not because you write a sad song that you have to be sad at the moment. If you're a good performer, you can still deliver. Like an actor. Like if an actor has to do a sad scene, they can put themselves in the scene, but it doesn't mean that they're currently going through that at the moment. It's acting.
I couldn't have put it better, and I'm going to use that metaphor. Like literally, you don't have to have gone through a traumatic experience to be able to deliver a traumatic performance.
Like there's an artist recently who has a song about killing her ex. A wonderful song, by the way. I forgot how it's called, but I don't think she really
the
killed.
Kill Bill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that song. I don't think she really killed her ex. You know, because
I'm skeptical.
Because that'd be a felony. She's not a method actor. You know what I mean? But yeah, all that being said, you can write fiction and still sell it and still have a cool vibe or a sad song or an interesting, weird lyric. It's art. Do what you want. You don't always need to do you. Sometimes you can. It's therapy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always need to be, I write songs about me and just me. It can be freeing to write about anything.
Tell me, lyric wise, since we're talking about words and delivery, do you find yourself more to be a descriptive writer or a metaphoric writer? Which do you prefer?
I think it depends of the style of music you're going for. You know, there are styles of music that work better with metaphors, like more dreamy imagery type of stuff. And then there's stuff where you have to be a little more on the nose. Like if you're writing country music per se, it's definitely more on the nose. It's more personal. It's less metaphorical, where if you're writing some dreamy dark pop, that kind of stuff, or even some movie trailer type of music, then it's all imagery.
That's true.
Yeah, style.
That's true.
It has to do with the style.
I like the way you put that, dreamy.
Well, it was
because-
like the Lana Del Rey, you know.
Yeah, dreamy.
Now my life is sweet like cinnamon. You know?
I love her writing. It's so good. And then her collaborators, of course. Yeah, her stuff is great.
Yeah, I agree. That album was like the album.
Born to Die?
Yeah, it was like the album of the summer of what, 2014?
Still to this day, one of my favorite albums of all time. Still to this day.
I think I had it on a repeat that entire summer.
It's a good repeat value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite genre? Because you do a lot of different genres, and I don't want people to think that it's just pop. You're a very multifaceted type of producer, writer, mixer. When somebody sends you a project, do you find it challenging sometimes to go outside of the genre? But have you ever been attacked with like a genre that kind of made you go, oof? Brazilian mix. Okay. Don't really know much about. I'm purely speaking from my experience of saying
there seems to be a Brazilian mix that gave you trouble in your past from that perspective.
A little traumatized still from the Caron. Yeah, there have been situations where I wasn't familiar with the culture. I wasn't familiar with the genre, but yet for some reason they trusted me to be able to do this mix. Shouldn't have, but still be able to succeed and to proceed through it. Do you have a genre that's ever stumped you?
Not a genre. I mean, I've had records that were more challenging than others, but in the end, in most cases, it turned out fine. Because I mean, if I take on a gig, I'll only do it if I'm confident I can deliver something. I can't tell if somebody's going to be happy because you can't predict the future, right? But if I feel like I could myself do it and be like, I know this is going to be good, I'll do it. And if I honestly don't think I'm the right guy for it, I'll just be straight about it.
Oh, so you're able to kind of identify that.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, like first of all, if you hear a record and you don't get it, or you're like, I don't like this, I don't think you should say yes. Because if there's nothing you like about the song, first of all, I think it'd be a little disrespectful to say yes to the artist, knowing you don't like the record just for the money. It's like, I'm not into that, you know? Second of all, if you don't like anything about a song, how can you bring out something good out of it?
Do you ever have moments of self-doubt, though, about being able to accomplish something?
You have days as a producer, and I'm sure everybody relates to that, but you have days where you wake up, you're like, king of the world. And then you have days where you're like, I'm fucking shit. You know, that's just being human. We all have our doubts, and we're all confident sometimes, and other times we're like not so confident.
When you're starting out getting hired by these A-list clients, so for example, Shawn Mendes, now you're no longer a mixer, just a mixer. So when you're working with artists like this, how does it go from that next step to them even knowing that you have producer arrangement skills? How do they end up knowing that, oh, he also is a badass producer?
I mean, funny enough, I started off as a producer, so I got. I mean, the funny thing is, I've always kind of mixed my productions,
Mhm.
right? So every single song that I had on the radio, I was always a producer, I was a writer, I was a mixer. I kind of had to do it all. So I don't ever think about that stuff. For me, it was always part of the process
Mm-hmm.
because I learned to mix out of necessity. And then I developed a passion for it. I developed a passion for tone, for placement, and not just for surgery, for getting things to be musical. And that's essentially what a mixer is.
I gotta ask, why necessity?
Uh, when you're a kid and you don't have money,
Okay.
that's kind of what you got to do.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still curious about the leap from, although I know that you're a producer and tons of people know that you were first a producer and just had to like mix your own stuff. The thing is that you started getting gigs as a mixer, and then how did they find out that you were also a producer? And because there are mixers,
Because I
that-
balanced demos really well. So people heard demos that I did where I was like rough mixing just a demo as a producer, and it kind of sounded like a record. And I've always been very aggressive in the way that I pursue business, and not in a bad way. And like, if I want something, I go for it. So
Mhm.
if there's not a mixer on board yet, but I want the gig, even though I'm not hired for it, I'll present a mix of the record, and in a very passive way where I'll be like, producing the record and just like mixing it. And if ever I don't get it, I'll be graceful about it.
Mhm.
But in my mind, I really want to do it, so I'll give my 100% doing this mix.
And you do
Yeah.
that like preemptively? So like
Preemptively,
just to show them?
But I do think that if you want something in life, anything, you go for it.
Yeah. Well, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you're working
Gandhi, just kidding. That'd be weird, right?
you're working with all of these A-listers. You're getting millions, billions of streams. Like it really seems like an ideal situation to be in your career. What is the next goal besides movies? Is there an artist that you want to work with?
I just want to do more music with artists.
So like full album productions.
Not necessarily, it could be EPs, but I just want to dive deeper. I don't want to do shorter sessions, shorter ADD stuff. I want to do stuff where we turn off our phone and reconnect with people, reconnect with the music. I
Mhm.
don't want to be some fucking Instagram post here and there and stuff. Like, people are losing the magic, man. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah,
Like,
we talk about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Connect, man. Connect with people. Don't connect with your iPhone.
Do you think that artists today are really losing that sense of connection with their music also? I know people that have been posting them playing covers for years, and I'm still looking for new content, but they're so obsessed with posting about themselves and forgetting about trying to connect with people on a human level, and that's through storytelling. And it's as if they think that at one point they're going to gain fans just through their covers. How important do you think it is to finally come out and just like put your foot down and come out with content?
Well, the cover thing is I think is very complicated, because I do think that if you post a cover that is incredibly unique, you
Mhm.
can gather. Here's a good example. Obviously, it wasn't posted online, but it's a very famous cover that I love. And really good covers are rare, but Gary Jules, the Tears for Fears cover,
Mad World.
Mad World,
Yeah.
correct. Incredible cover.
Yes.
It's completely different from the original. So, like,
Mhm.
honestly, the first time I heard it, I thought it was the original song. I didn't know Tears for Fears back then, and then figured out it was a cover. And I do prefer. I mean, I love both versions, but I do prefer Gary Jules' version.
Yeah, I personally
Yeah.
really dislike covers because of what you just said, is that oftentimes it's just, let's just copy and paste that song.
And it's never as good.
It's never anything like, what new can you bring to the table that I haven't already heard
Yeah.
done for this subject?
Yeah. So I do think if you're doing covers, if you can bring something new to it,
Mhm.
obviously while respecting the art form, because I do think it's important to be respectful of a piece of music, especially if it's a beautiful piece of music. Or else it's, as classical guys would put it, it's a travesty to hear this, you know. but yeah, you want to be respectful of a piece of music, definitely. But you also want to bring your own flavor to it, assuming you are good.
Sure. I think
Because if you're bad, you're not.
If you're bad,
anything.
then you're not going to be gaining anything.
Forget it. But there's a lot of that because there's so much content online nowadays. It's like there's so much content. How do you cut through the noise?
Right.
And I do think the only way to do it, and it's like, it doesn't mean you're going to cut through the noise, even if you're good, unfortunately, is to be consistent while being good. Because at a point, like you said, you shoot more often, you'll score eventually, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like you were talking about before, even with the gear, it's like this instant gratification. And so our attention span has got shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
And what's going to bring me that kind of dopamine hit right now?
Yeah. But as an artist, if all you think about are fans and airplay and this and that, you're probably going to be very unhappy very soon because these things take time. And sometimes for a lot of people, they don't happen. But if you take pleasure in the journey, you'll be a lot happier. And that's what I always say. You have to fall in love with the journey, not the result.
As a producer, your job is to make sure that it's actually going to reach a wider audience. So that means making decisions that maybe the artist might say, yeah, I don't really want to say it that way, or I don't want to sing it that way. I've had so many situations where the direction could have gone, left. And because the artist was so, headstrong on going right, that maybe, who knows, maybe the song probably would have done better. How much leeway do you give the artist to say, listen, that's a great idea, but you really need to trust me on this? Or do you just let it go and go?
I first of all, I never base any decision. I will never base my decision on whether or not it will appeal to a mass audience. I never do that because if I do that, then I forget about me. What do I feel? So it doesn't matter for me because in the scheme of things, first of all, I'm not a mind reader. I can't guess what people want. Nobody can. Some people pretend they do, but they fucking can't. Nobody can read minds.
Right.
You sure?
No, but sometimes we try. Some people will charge you for it and put some cards in front of you. Yeah. That being said, I do leave room for the artist, of course. I mean, I think if you collaborate with somebody, you have to collaborate.
Right.
But I think you have to find a middle ground. If they don't like an idea of yours, I think you have to be able to be like, oh, well, let's try something else. And vice versa. And you have to connect. And once you start connecting, really vibing with somebody, good ideas are going to start flowing way more often than you think. It's like occasionally there's going to be something a little weird out there, but sometimes weird is a good thing.
Weird is always a good thing. I think.
I mean, yeah. I mean, not
Here we
all.
go.
I think it's very often a good thing, and sometimes there's such a thing as too weird.
Is there?
Yeah.
Your career has spanned into working with a lot of artists and therefore getting you a lot of attention from gear manufacturers, software companies, and things like that. You've developed a relationship with these companies, not only just to be a marketing tool, but you're developing and you're working on the sounds and actual presets with these companies. What are some of those companies? I know that I did a specific video with you for Arturia.
Yeah, I know. They have incredible stuff.
Stuff. So
their synths are just so good.
So how far does that involvement go in? So it's not just you using the plugins to actually help their brand. How much more involved are you?
Well, like you said, I do presets occasionally for them. So if they ask me, hey, we'd love a couple presets, or sometimes I'll post about the plugin. If like basically Native Instruments send me a lot of their stuff, which I absolutely love. By the way, they have some of the greatest pianos I've heard. All their stuff is incredible. So I'll post about the stuff I'm excited about. Like I've posted about them. Baby Audio, they have some killer plugins as well. Slate, Yeah, Slate Digital as well. Incredible stuff. Beautiful EQs, beautiful compressors. So many good things. Even their, I don't know if you've tried their new plugin, the Storage one. Storage, the filter, the Storage filter.
I actually haven't used it yet.
It's really cool. It's dope. So yeah, I'll post about their stuff. I'll make presets for them. Sometimes I'll try their beta versions, and if there's any things that need improvement or that I'm having trouble with, I'll voice as a pro user. I'll voice my concern and be like, "Hey, this could use a little bit of finessing here in that setting." Or yeah, I've had one thing, a plugin, I can't remember the brand, but you know, when I moved the gain, it was behaving in a weird way, and I voiced that, and they fixed it.
That's good that
they're
they listen at least.
Well, they have to.
Receptive.
Yeah, but they have to, because if they didn't, they'd be out of business. You know. Yeah.
No, and he's voicing that and saying that it's just because producers are often giving them advice on, you need to tweak this, you need to tweak this. This doesn't work for us in this way, because a lot of times they put out the software and they basically go, let's see what comes back, and they wait to see what people say, responses of people working in the studio. But yourself.
Nowadays, it's very, very common. It's become very. I don't like using the term industry standard, but it's become very, very standardized to have beta versions circulating among a trusted group of producers, where they will identify the real world problems that we experience, and therefore the companies will go ahead and fix it. And then when it's released, it's like perfect. Yeah,
it's almost perfect. Have you ever, let's go like one step further. Have you ever thought about developing a plugin with the company and saying the John Nathaniel compressor? Or
yeah, I mean, I have, if I do it one day, I'm not saying no, but if I do it one day, it will have to be something that is unique, because there's a lot of stuff out there that is doing the same thing. It's the same compressor, the same emulation of that analog gear. Like, we don't need a 50th version of X compressor. You know what I mean? Like, I've already got like fucking 10.
Yeah.
So, so like at this point, it's like things that take fully advantage of the digital world are really, really cool.
So anything that you'd be coming out with, needless to say, it would have to be simple, but yet simple, user-friendly, but it can't be just the one knob thing. There has to be like some flexibility.
It also has to be different, most importantly, because I do think it's a market where there's a lot of plugins. I mean, you know, there was a point very early in my career where I was like, oh, I have them all. And then you know what I mean?
Oh, I have Waves Platinum. That's it.
Yeah,
no.
Pretty much. So you had them all. What plugins do you have? All of them. Now you need like a fucking Facebook server room to have all of them, you know? Yeah, no, there's so many of them. There's and really good ones too, you know?
So you are not one to use, like, for example, if like there are people that swear by UAD. There are people that are Slate guys. There are people, you really, I've opened up your mixes, and you've had the pleasure of like showing me, you know, your process and how you're
potpourri of everything.
You use everything. You do not discriminate and go, yeah, I'm a Waves guy, or I'm a UAD guy, or I'm a Slate guy. You use them all.
I don't believe in that. I think
you use them all.
I think a lot of companies do great things. You know, there's not just one company out there that does, like we were talking about Arturia earlier. A lot of people don't know that. They only think of the synths, but they have brilliant actual plugins like EQs, compressors, distortions. Like, their stuff is sick. It's so good. And I need a lot of stuff too, because I need to be able to open other people's sessions. So if there's, let's say I receive a session from X client, a Logic session, and they have a plugin on a very important track, because if it's like a plugin on like a lifter, then I'll be like, just print it. But if it's like on your drum bus or on your vocal lead or whatever, and I like the vocal sound, I'll have to buy it.
Right. Right. Do you find yourself working, because you are mainly a Logic Pro user? Do you find yourself ever in situations where you're dealing with stems, people sending you stems or actually tracks? Yeah. They're printing the reverbs, they're printing delays in case, you know, like that's what they're going to be doing. And that's not a problem for you, and that's not a problem for anybody else, as long as you're doing the job, right?
It doesn't have to be a problem. And if I need something specific, I'll just ask them. So basically printing the reverb separately is always a good idea. You don't want to, I don't think you want to print the reverb, like especially if you're hiring a mixer. I don't think you want that reverb printed on the lead unless you are like you've worked on it so hard and it already sounds insane. But even then, I mean, there's a
separate
way.
reverb
I mean, yeah,
printed.
but there's a way nowadays with plugins where you can, reduce a little bit of the reverbs. You do get artifacts though.
Have you ever had a situation where they ask specifically, do you work in Pro Tools? We need you to work in Pro Tools.
No. If people hire me, they want my sound. They don't want my Pro Tools shitty skills.
Right.
I don't work in Pro Tools.
Done.
Yeah, there
Done.
you go. You know what I mean?
Done.
But essentially a DAW does not define your identity. Your identity as a mixer, as a producer is you. The DAW is your form of expression. It's how you achieve things.
Sure.
So whether you work in Fruity Loops, in Logic, in Pro Tools, it doesn't matter. Work within the DAW you are comfortable in. Yeah.
You have to be comfortable within your DAW of choice, and that's your workflow. Those are your tools. Almost like the mouse that you use, the keyboard that you use. These are all the tools that are going to help you excel.
Everything matters. Everything. Like I look at things like people find me weird because I have a MIDI controller on my left, and I said, oh, I also want a MIDI controller here because for me, wheeling away for 30, like maybe not 30 seconds, but like 10 seconds. If I go there, 10 seconds for me is enough to lose momentum.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and if you're in the flow, you're in the flow. So.
Yeah. But it sounds stupid, but 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there, it adds up.
So you could be the best mixer in the entire world and the client can still want something else. Was there a point in your career where you kind of had to like teach yourself that humility, the ability to kind of stand back and say, even though I'm amazing at my job, like they still want this done a different way?
Man, it's when it happens, it can be soul crushing when it happens because it's like you take a hit but it's part of the journey. And as you get older, you learn that these things are not personal.
Right.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
Not personal to you, maybe personal for them. It's their work. And...
But it's not personal to you. It doesn't attack your character.
Right.
That's what I mean. It doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're shite.
Yeah, that's an important thing is to be able to step back and say that this is not about me. It's not an attack on my person. It's about the music. We're talking about the song. Let's not forget what we're talking about.
And if they want something else, it's okay. You know?
Right. Right. What do you prefer? Do you prefer lyrics? Do you prefer mixing? Do you prefer producing? I know this is a rhetorical question, but a lot of people would probably want to know.
I can tell you, I definitely don't prefer lyrics. Lyrics is it's an important part of the process, but it's a very painful part of the process.
Why so?
Because you need to be really, like, first of all, it can make or break a record very, very easily, more than anything else. So it can turn your song into super cool and edgy to fucking cheeseball in a moment. And it's also sometimes a longer process. But my favorite part, I would say, is probably the final parts of a production when the song really starts coming to life and you actually hear the record. You stop hearing the technical aspect of it. You stop hearing the process of recording vocals or doing overdubs, but it's not the finished record, but you start hearing the record and you like, this is the record. And you have like a little tingle inside of you, like a little excitement.
Yeah.
Working on people's songs, do you have templates? There are a lot of producers that have templates that they start with. Is there one type of template that you work with?
I don't have a session template. I mean, I do for orchestral and composition and starting songs that I have. So I have go-to sounds. For mixing, what I do have are presets that I've made. So inside the plugins, every time I have an issue like excessive boominess in a vocal, I have things that I can call in the certain plugin.
Right.
So they're presets, but they're like my presets.
Yeah, so there's not actually a template that pops up and all your reverbs are on these buses and all your delays are under that. You have channel strips.
So I can recall channel strips. So if I like a certain harmonizer or a certain reverb setting, I can recall it in another session. So in a way, it is a form of template, but the thing is, because every session is different for me,
right?
Especially because I work in different genres, and because I very often get Logic sessions, I would have to re-export everything into a new session to have a template. If I only got stems, it'd be a different story. Then I would have a session template.
So how do you work on a session? For example, if you do open up a Logic session that comes from somewhere else, but they don't have your workflow, is that more time consuming?
So I'll ask them to do certain things before they send me the session. So file labeling, organize the files, drums on top. I'll give them a specific order so that if I open the session, I don't waste too much time. I'll still organize, but I don't waste hours because the clock is the enemy.
Yes.
When mixing a record, the clock really is the enemy. And the clock is the enemy because you lose perspective the more you go on. So if you hear the song because you have to edit vocals, because you have to do this, you are basically getting less objective as you move forward.
And it's not necessarily like the producer that's sending that to you or the recording engineer that's sending that to you who's doing all the labeling. Do they sometimes have someone whose job is just
yeah, they sometimes have, assistants or something like that. But if I've had nothing but people who were very, very generous to do that, and they've done it quite well. They've, I've received sessions, and sometimes things weren't perfect, but mainly 90% nailed. The one thing I always ask for is markers in Logic. So, I mean, I can tell what the chorus is, what the pre-chorus is, but it's so easy for me to navigate to one section to another when I have markers in the session that I'll ask for. I know this is kind of childish, but I like icons in Logic. So if you have guitarists, put the guitar icon. If you have vocals, but visually it's a lot easier because when you do have over 100 tracks, looking at very small labeling
and colors.
Yeah, colors. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people tend to separate their drums, and they see drums and they see instruments in different colors. I do that. I see drums as orange for some reason. I have bass obviously are darker colors. I have vocals that are yellow because it's in your face. So do you have preferences to what your colors are for different tracks?
It's funny because this is where I'm kind of messy. I do colors for certain instruments. Drums, I don't do colors because I know they're on top, so I know where they are. Vocals, once they are tuned and edited, they are pink. If I hear a sentence that's a little funky, I put it brown. This is self-explanatory.
It's poo-poo.
I'm not necessarily. I mean, yes, sometimes, but very often for me, it's a way of saying this, and I'll probably hear it later again, but just in case if it's subtle or something, I know this moment in the track needs to be addressed. So if it's something that can wait, I'll color code it brown. I know I have to get it to it after. Yeah.
I'm really interested, especially as like a new, engineer in my career where you guys place everything. So you're saying you place your vocals at the bottom?
Vocals at the bottom, depending if it's a pop song, yes, because drums on top. For some reason, for me, it makes sense. And very often I'll place the effects, all the whoosh, all that shit at the very bottom of the session. So I'll go drums, bass, mid instruments, so guitar, synths, etc., strings, whatever, and then vocals, back vocals, effects.
Are you the same?
Exactly the same.
Because that's how I kind of do it as well.
It's just logical. So some people will have a completely different system. But if you work on a piano record per se, you might place things different, right? Yeah.
When you have assistants actually prepare tracks to be mixed for you, do you ask them to stem like percussions together, or that's why you have so many tracks? You want everything separate?
No. I'll be like all the fizzy stuff, like the lifters and stuff that have plugins on them, print that stuff. I don't care about a white noise with a filter that happens once in the song that has 10 plugins on it. Print it, save the CPU.
Sure.
The stuff I don't want printed are lead vocals.
Yeah.
Backgrounds, if you like the sound of the back, print them,
It does take away some flexibility though, doesn't it?
The thing is, too much flexibility is not a good thing.
Oh, okay.
No, I do think limitations are what pushes you to move forward. It's basically like if you start recording a track and do you sing?
Yes.
How many ways can you sing a sentence?
Many, like
Many.
infinite.
You can decide to sing in a Kermit voice if you want, but that's one of the limitations where you say, hey, these are the 2 ways I could sing that instead of the 20 ways. Because if you look at the 20 ways you can sing them, then you can get lost in the, what if that. And that is a perfect way to lose the big picture. And you never want to lose the big picture. That's what matters in the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
John Nathaniel, what is your wish list for the future,
Mhm.
even after working with some of your idols and people that you admire and love? What is on the wish list for John Nathaniel?
Eternal life, vampirism. No, seriously, I really want to do movie scoring. That would be my main career wise, and consistent happiness, I guess. Doing what I love, connecting with people more in a digital world where we connect less and less, and we are glued to our phones.
Mhm.
I want to do less of that. I want to do more in-person connection, real stuff, real life.
Reconnect to the world around
Reconnect
you.
to the world, reconnect with the living.
Yeah.
Well, John Nathaniel, thank you for connecting
Thank you.
with us. This has been a lot of fun. And I hope that you get all of those new connections and more film scoring. John Nathaniel, film scoring. This channel will grow with you, my friend. And thank you again for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, both of you.
And that's been another episode. Join us next time on
Basebin TV.
Basebin TV.